Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict Show. Good to be with you and good to see you guys as always. First of all, allow me to say thank you to Stephen, to Guy, and to Evan for the super sticker last time. I just didn't get a chance to say thank you, so I get wrapped up into my thinking, and I sort of so I wanted to say thank you for your support for that. I also wanted to let you know that I will be doing provide you some sort of a brief analysis about the upcoming trip of the President of the United States to Europe and what it means and why and all that stuff. So I'm not sure yet as to whether I'll do it on Thursday or Friday, but I will do it, guys, for you to give you some sort of a readout on what it means, given the what's the word I'm looking for? Division that exists in Europe regarding what's going on in Ukraine. So we'll talk about this one later. But for today, what I want to talk to you about, and I didn't want to get on the air yesterday because I wanted to wait on certain information to confirm, to make sure I am getting the right information and accurate one and confirm it before I come on the air and share it with you. So what I want to talk about is the passage of the USS Ralph Johnson, the destroyer that once crossed the Strait of the Taiwan Strait, and what it means and why. I'm not laughing. It's not a laughable matter. It's almost like makes me think about, okay, where is the common sense? Where is pragmatism? Aren't the well, not individuals, those are policymakers in Washington, D.C. that are making decisions. Aren't they thinking logically about tomorrow or about the next 5 years or about the next 20 years? So sort of the consequences of actions that could backfire. And this is what I wanted to provide you today, a readout about it and what you should understand. I am certain most of you have heard of the Taiwan conflict, an issue that it's been going on for a while, and it will continue to be. Yet, I'm getting to that point, and this is my personal opinion. I'm getting to that point where I'm starting to feel somebody's going to make some miscalculations from the West, regarding that issue, and it's going to be too late to even sit down and have a conversation to resolve the issue, because it will be too late for that. And this is where my concern. So the question becomes is why the provocation? If the United States aimed at sort of seeking the assistance of China in resolving the Russia-Ukraine crisis, so why would you antagonize the Chinese regarding it? And again, I am not defending China here, whatever. I'm just saying what is pragmatic, what is rational to think about in terms of avoiding conflict and allow everybody to live in peace, shall we say. Well, here's the background story about that. The Chinese Changdong, I hope I pronounced it correctly, guys, which is an aircraft carrier that's usually a lot. Anytime an aircraft carrier sails through the waters, it has to go with some sort of other naval assets. In this case, the Changdong aircraft also was accompanied by a Type 052D destroyer. And the purpose of it was, and this was about March 17, March 18, around that time. So it was heading out towards the Taiwan Strait, but at the same time, you noticed that there was a U.S. aircraft destroyer. I'm sorry, the USS Ralph Johnson destroyer was shadowing it behind. So to the Chinese, the interpretation was right away show of force. But what's interesting about this, and I want you to just think about it from an optic, international one, that is. What's important about this is just the sailing of the USS destroyer came only hours before the phone call from President Biden to President Xi. And somebody, by the way, helped me to pronounce this correctly. Thanks to you. So that's what I found very, very interesting. And the idea, which sort of common sense to think of it, the move by the US, it's almost like sending, well, it's not almost, it is sending the wrong signal here, and the wrong signal is being sent to so-called the pro-Taiwan independence forces. That is very dangerous, shall we say. It's because what's her name? President Tsai, thinking in terms of, well, the US will be there to defend us. Well, hold on a second. As an American, we're already dealing with one conflict now against another major power. Do you think we're going to just drop our own issues that we have here at home and come over and support? That doesn't work that way. Second thing is, the United States has what we called the ambiguity policy towards Taiwan. Sort of, the US will never recognize Taiwan to go into that direction. Even though you and I know, as I said last time, guys, when I read to you that readout from the White House, in that sentence in which the United States reiterated the support for Taiwan, but the US cannot sort of have what's the word I'm looking for? Not a double standard, but saying this but acting this. So saying this way but acting this way. You can't have that in foreign policy. In foreign policy, you have to have principles on which you stand, on which you advocate for whatever. But you can't be wishy-washy, because in international relations, it doesn't work that way. And that becomes, why is that important, guys? It's important because of the issue of credibility. You can't be telling countries, oh, yeah, we'll do A, B, C, and D, and you end up doing C, D, E, A, whatever that is. It just doesn't work that way. And that is where the concern regarding exactly what just took place only hours before the president of the United States made a phone call to the Chinese president. So, well, if you are the United States, and this is why, by the way, guys, I got convinced because, and I did not know this info at the time I made the video about the phone call, because it was right after it. That's why I was convinced that the phone call, it wasn't about warning China. No, it was about seeking China's mediation into the Russian-Ukrainian issue. But on the other hand, I'm saying to myself, well, if you are seeking an assistance from another country, what would you provoke it? Doesn't make any sense. So I don't know who was advising the president to say, yes, sir, this course of action will be okay. No, it's not. Because logically and pragmatically speaking, it does not make any sense whatsoever. And this is why the Chinese interpreted that as like sort of, that's sort of a provocation, shall we say, given the sensitivity of the Taiwan issue and how the Taiwan issue is so important in the US-China relations. Because it is one of the hallmark of this whole relationship was all about. So, yes, we understand that the United States has no formal diplomatic relations with Taipei. But at the same time, Taiwan is sort of, the United States is the most international backer and arms suppliers for Taiwan. And this is, by the way, why the phone call, let me say thank you while I am seeing this one here. Thank you, Stephen, again. I truly appreciate your super secret, and thank you for last time. My apologies for not saying thank you right away. So thank you again. And this is why the idea of why the phone call between President Xi and President Biden took about 2 hours. There were other issues were discussed. I don't know, sort of, I get a hint. I've been in Washington, so I kind of understand kind of a little bit how those dynamics go when it comes down to the secure lines, And this issue of Taiwan came up in a conversation. There's no doubt in my mind. It came up in a conversation. And the reason it came up in a conversation because the Chinese president, mentioned it to his counterpart, the U.S. president, that the Taiwan issue needs to be handled properly. And pay attention, guys, to the wording of it. Properly, to avoid any negative impact on the Sino-US relations. It's very, very crucial, because here is the thing, and I'm talking from some sort of experience here. In any conflict, especially when it comes down to managing global conflicts, how usually the conflicts start to begin with when there is a miscalculation. Somebody assumed we can do action A, but we don't think that it will be a reaction from the other party. That's usually one of the common misconception about, or misunderstanding about, oh no, it will be no reaction. Not in this case, because the sensitivity of the topic, of the issue, we all know this. We're not going to go into the history of back after World War II and time. You all know that background. You all know that history. And I am not here to talk about that. I am here to provide the framework under which you can put this issue and look at it under the lenses of international relations. And ask yourself the questions, which, by the way, I have a question for you towards the end. So this is where the challenge that I believe that in this conflict regarding the Taiwan, that is where the issue is. Because there are some individuals inside the Washington establishments, are sending, in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, are sending the wrong signals, the wrong message to the pro-independence forces in Taiwan. And that is very dangerous. And I'll say it straightforward, because China is going to react to that. There is no doubt in my mind. And again, I'm talking from experience. The other thing that, as I always say, guys, putting my geopolitical analyst hat on, you have to look at the trend of what's going on around the world. Well, what's going on right now beside the Russia-Ukraine conflict? There is the issue of now the moving away from using the US dollar. And who comes to mind into this? China, of course. But when you think about a country like Saudi Arabia, an oil producer, considering the usage of the Chinese currency instead of the dollar, you can just start to think of the big picture, what it will mean, assuming this will erupt, this conflict, this Taiwan issue will erupt into a full-scale conflict. Because here is the thing, and this is all hypothetical, because we have to consider scenarios, what if. The idea is that now there is this movement, and there are countries, and I've been reading from different sources, not only here in the US, outside, there's a conversation inside some governments as far as, is it time for us to put our ducks in a row regarding the financial structure moving forward? Because their argument is that, are the days for the US dollars unnumbered? Because you are now seeing, at least for me, I'm aware of certain conversations in Europe as to how divided Europe is regarding what's going on right now with those sanctions on Russia and so forth. And some of them are saying, maybe we acted hastily here. Maybe we should have taken a step back and reconsider our options. And when you see in a country like oil producer that is moving away from the petrodollar, that's a signal. That's a message right there. You start to see the trend, where the trends are headed. Like I always say, you look at the geopolitical landscape on a global level and how it's already shifting. You look at, for example, because when you take a step back and think about the sanctions regarding Russia, there are countries there that didn't embark on that. India is one of them. China, Turkey, Israel. There are other countries that they did not, saying, It's because they're seeing where the trend is going. And this is where this concern, at least for me, when I came across the info and found out that, a U.S. destroyer is crossing again. What for? Given the already what we dealing with. Because the first thing, and again, I'm not laughing out of laughing. I'm laughing because the pragmatism doesn't exist. It's almost like the individuals making those kind of decisions, they don't think for the next day. They don't think for the next 10 years what that's going to do. Because what do we think? China's going to just sit around and watch? Or any country for that matter. The dynamics have changed. The global dynamics have changed. Gone that era when the United States used to be the sole superpower that manages the earth. It's a reality. As I always say, in Washington and Brussels, they're not willing to accept that reality. But it's a fait accompli, as we always say. And this is where that concern for me came from, the idea that all it's going to take is a miscalculations and things will be out of control. So to the president's side thinking that the U.S. is going to send its own soldiers to die for time, I don't think so. It's not I don't think so. It won't happen. You've got already a population here in the United States that is now struggling with daily life, how to make ends meet. With the inflation going up, with the gas prices, with even the price of metal. I found out this morning that, for example, the stainless steel. The stainless steel is going up by 7%, which is a big jump. So there are serious concerns, domestic issues here at home that we have to deal with. And yet you're going to add another conflict to the dock. There is already the issue with Russia right now. And if we think that we can sort of dictate the terms, that era is gone. I don't know why. It's not I don't know. I think I do. It's intentional that some policymakers refuse to see the reality and see the truth. That global order has changed and not to the favor of the United States. And once again, I'm not talking negative about the US. It's my country. I'm talking about a concern. My argument is out of concern where this is headed. And if you don't have level-headed individuals in Washington, the ones who can, again, some are lacking the depth of international relations, what international relations are all about. Like I do remember saying this, and I don't remember what I said usually. International relations is not about flexing your military muscles. It takes more than that. And here is the argument that I will sort of just present to you. And again, it's almost like I feel having a conversation with you guys, because that's all it is. As an analyst, I will think in terms of what if scenarios, I always say. So let's just hypothetically go along with me with this analysis, if you will. Let's say for a moment, bargaining with China. If we are to bargain with China, okay, there are those who will say, but this will disadvantage the United States. How so, you may ask? And the argument will be, as an analyst, I'm just thinking out loud here. Some will say, well, if you do this, you're going to permit China and others to perceive the irrelevance of the United States. Okay, shall we say? Because we are just, this is just a scenario. We're thinking out loud here. So the possibility that is designed to provide the benefit of accommodation, for example, okay, while at the same time reducing the risks. It is grand. It is a big bargain, shall we say. And in this bargain, we are talking about in which the United States, okay, ends its commitment to defend Taiwan. And in return, China peacefully resolve its maritime disputes in the South China and East China Seas. The only thing that's going to be required for this, and again, this is just a hypothetical analysis, I'm just talking out loud. The only thing that's going to be required for that is that if China to do this, then China will have to sort of accept US long-term military security role in East Asia, which is something you and I know China doesn't want that. Countries in the region do not want that. Because here's the thing, embarking on this strategy, and as I said again, these are just hypothetical, we're just thinking out loud. So embarking on this strategy will send a message to neighboring countries around that area, including Japan, Brunei, the Philippines, Taiwan itself, Malaysia, and Vietnam. And the message that's going to be sending is that US days of influence in the Pacific are numbered. There are those who might say, well, yeah, it's a changing dynamics. And you look at it no further now than how, for example, ASEAN countries are seeing this or under the lenses under which they are putting this Taiwan issue. Because what are they saying? ASEAN countries. US, you deal with that. China, you deal with that. We'll deal with China in trade. We'll deal with US in whatever other matters. But that's about it. So in other words, they want to adopt neutrality, which will be a smart move of ASEAN countries. Why? Because economically, you don't ignore a 2.2, something like 2.2 or 2.3 trillion dollars economy. That's going to soon outpace that of Europe, the EU for that matter. And once again, guys, this is just thinking out loud. As I said earlier, I put my analyst hat and just think in terms of, okay, how could the conflict play out? Because the dynamics that's taking place right now, especially, I'm now really zooming at one key, which is the financial aspects. It's because countries are realizing, they're seeing now with the sanctions, it is time to kind of start to build our own independent financial system, shall we say. What that's going to do to the US dollar. You're smart enough to know. I don't need to tell you that one. But that is where things are headed. And that becomes the big question of it all, is that could the ongoing sanctions right now backfire on the United States or Europe for that matter? And this is why I'm going to talk to you on either Thursday or Friday about President Biden's trip to Europe, what it means. I'm hearing personally from my own sources about the division that exists inside Europe, despite what you hear. And I think we're going to, by the way, guys, we're going to be talking about some of these topics here on Friday live on the other platform without mentioning it here. You all know. So that is where I see the trends headed towards. So this trip, the upcoming trip of the president, it's a major indication for me personally as to where the transatlantic relations are. And also because the United States realized after the phone call with President Xi that China will think about its own strategic. Yes, China has a good relationship with Russia. They could have stepped in, but it wouldn't be to their benefit at this time. Why? Because the global order is changing. That is the whole reason for why that is. So before I ask you today's question, first of all, I want to say, if this is your first time on this channel, please subscribe. Yes, you can do it right now. So please subscribe to that. And I also want to, by the way, before I forget, also, I read some of your answers about the 2 questions I asked last time. And majority, about almost 91% of you, falls in line with exactly what I was thinking. The first one was, yes, it will be appropriate of China to respond to the call, because diplomatically that will be the protocol. And you guys absolutely correct. There was only 1 or 2 that said, what, China should never answered. No, you kind of don't take stuff personally when it comes down to international affairs. No, it doesn't work that way. And this is why you have to have level-headed individuals who understand the depth of the dynamics of what international relations are all about. As I always say, international relations is not about flexing your military muscles. International relations are about cooperation, about understanding the other party's strategic interest, okay? Because they will reciprocate and think the same. And that's where the win-win situation comes in. Everybody wins. But if you start to think only about me and pushing the others, no, they won't have it. And rightly so. Why? Because they're going to have to be concerned about their own interest. And rightly so. Every country on earth has to think about its own strategic interest. That's the norm in international relations. There's nothing wrong with it. For the second question, there are those who are saying, yes, that there's a possibility to that. Tensions could escalate with the US. Others saying no. If the US could take a better approach, and I did understand through the answers what you guys meant is no need for that attitude of superiority. I'm coming to the negotiations with this attitude that I am superior than you. No, you're not. Because here is the hard truth, and I'm gonna say it as you will expect from me, guys. Here's the hard truth: is that in the United States and in the West in general, we are not willing to sit down with the Chinese on an equal footing. You all know what I mean by that. And that is, to me, part of where the problem is. Because if you are to sit across the table from your other party and treat them as such, why I do believe issues will be resolved. And even with the complexity of what's going on right now, there are ways of resolving these tensions, these global tensions that exist. I don't work for State Department. I am not a Secretary of State. And if I were, I would know how to manage those relations with other countries. Because you're going to have to approach it with cooperation first, with understanding what the needs are for both parties, with ensuring that the world is a peaceful place for everybody. That's how I will approach it, because that is the right thing to do. Will I advocate for my own interest? Yes, I will. But at the same time, I have to take consideration of the other party's interests as well. I have to be respectful of the differences in culture. I have to understand the history of the other parties. Because it's not enough, as I always say, it is not enough to just read a book or two and call yourselves an expert. No, you're not. Reading a book or two doesn't cut it. And that's why I always keep repeating about the term of amateurish foreign policy individuals in Washington, D.C. They have no clue about the depth of another culture. let alone speaking its own language and understanding its customs and traditions and history. And those guys will be the basic tenets on which you can structure a foreign policy. Once again, it's not all about military might and all that. No, because we've seen this before. We've seen this movie before. And that is what I wanted to drive home in this conversation. So here's my question to you guys for today's question. So, do you believe ASEAN countries will stay neutral in the case of a Taiwan conflict? Why and why not? I repeat again. In your opinion, do you believe ASEAN countries will stay neutral in case of a Taiwan conflict? Why and why not? And as I said last time, guys, the whole purpose for this is just for us to, that's my way of having a conversation with you. You know, I'm no better than anybody. I'm learning. I'm still learning. I'm learning from you as well, because we are here to learn from each other. You know, that attitude of I'm better than you, whatever. No. You know, and that's why, believe it or not, I do read all your comments, guys. It was 1,000 plus comments that I had to read. Yes, I might not answer the whole 1,000 because I have other stuff to do, but I do read quick. Why? Because it's important. That's how I learn from you. It's my way of learning as well. I hope you find this very informative, guys, and I look forward to seeing you. As always, guys, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.